Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: for Palestinians in Lebanon, Gaza war is a reminder and a warning. Ex-Mi6 boss voices fears over British intelligence blind spot with Beijing. Update 1 Houthis TV says US and British airstrikes target Yemen port. Roger Donlin, first Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam War, dies at 89. Taiwan detects most Chinese military aircraft around island since election. For Palestinians in Lebanon, Gaza war is a reminder and a warning. Washington Post. This article focuses on the impact of the most recent Israeli offensive in Gaza on Palestinians. Many Palestinians in Lebanon feel as if their lives in exile are a warning of what could be in store for Gazans. For Palestinians, the memory of Nakba, the catastrophe, is never far from their minds, and the current crisis is seen as a reminder of why they pass this memory down to their children. The article also highlights the issue of statelessness for Palestinian refugees in Lebanon and the precarious position they find themselves in, where they are always waiting for something to happen. This is particularly relevant to the ongoing conflict in Gaza, which began with a surprise attack by Hamas on October 7. Since then, there have been numerous Israeli airstrikes which have killed many Palestinians, most of whom are civilians. The article ends by discussing how it is important to safeguard the memories of the few remaining survivors of the 1948 dispossession and highlights the ongoing nature of displacement for Palestinians. Ex-Mi6 boss voices fears over British intelligence blind spot with Beijing. Bloomberg. Former deputy head of MI6, Nigel Inkster, has warned that the UK is ill-equipped to handle covert threats from China. Inkster highlighted the lack of language expertise and cultural awareness within MI6 and the wider UK intelligence community. He also noted that China has a well-established network of cyber espionage operations and an increasing number of spies engaged in classic espionage. Inkster's comments came despite the current head of MI6, Sir Richard Moore, stating in July that MI6 has more resources devoted to China than any other mission. Inkster acknowledged efforts to improve the UK's intelligence capabilities but warned that it will take time. He welcomed the new National Security Act, which became law in July, as it will aid the prosecution of Chinese spies. Update 1 Houthis TV says US and British airstrikes target Yemen port. Yahoo! The US and UK have launched 2 airstrikes targeting the port of Ras Isa, Yemen's main oil export terminal, according to Houthis Al Masirah television. The airstrikes come after Yemen's Houthi rebels increased attacks on vessels transiting the Red Sea, including an attack on the tanker Marlin Luanda. The US Navy is providing assistance to the tanker, which was damaged in the attack. The Houthi militants have been launching drones and missiles at vessels since November in response to Israel's military operations in Gaza. Roger Donlin, first Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam War, dies at 89. Washington Post. U.S. Army Captain Roger Donlin, the first Congressional Medal of Honor recipient of the Vietnam War, has died at the age of 89. Donlin was serving as commanding officer of Team A726 in the remote hilltop outpost of Camp Nam Dong near the Laotian border on July 6, 1964 when it came under heavy mortar attack from the North Vietnamese Army. The 12-man U.S. Special Forces detachment worked alongside more than 300 South Vietnamese soldiers and local militiamen, as well as an Australian military advisor. The base was completely surrounded by North Vietnamese soldiers and Viet Cong guerrillas. Donlin was wounded 4 times during the attack, but refused medical treatment until all his men were evacuated. The battle at Nam Dong lasted for 5 hours and saw 3 Americans killed, including Donlin's close friend Staff Sergeant Gabriel Ralph Alamo, while at least 57 South Vietnamese soldiers also died. The North Vietnamese lost at least 60 fighters. Taiwan detects most Chinese military aircraft around island since election. Japan Times. China recently sent 33 military aircraft around Taiwan over a 24-hour period, the most since Taiwan elected a new president less than 2 weeks ago. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry said that 13 of the aircraft had crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait, which once served as an unofficial boundary between the two sides. In addition to the aircraft, 7 Navy vessels were also spotted operating around the island. Taiwan's military closely monitored the situation and responded with aircraft, Navy vessels, and coastal missile systems. PA Representative Barry Joswiak announces he will not run for re-election. Yahoo! State Representative Barry Joswiak, of Pennsylvania, has announced that he will not be seeking re-election at the end of the year. Having served 5 terms, the Bern Township Republican said in a statement that it had been an honor to represent the 5th Legislative District, and that his commitment to public service had been a constant part of his life. John Pilger's death is a loss for journalism and the world. South China Morning Post. The death of journalist John Pilger in December 2023 is a great loss to the media landscape, particularly in a time when public trust in the media is low. Pilger was known for his tireless pursuit of truth and his criticism of Western imperialism and interference. His reporting on Asia, in particular, shed light on the realities of major conflicts and their impact on the people. He was concerned about the possibility of a catastrophic war with China and constantly called out the United States and its allies for their actions. Pilger's documentary, The Coming War on China, warned about the dangers of attempting to contain the rise of a rival by any means necessary. His opinions were often seen as heretical by the mainstream media, but he continued to speak out because of his passion for journalism and his belief in its importance. Pilger's death is a loss for the profession and for those who valued his voice of reason and his dedication to uncovering inconvenient facts. State Department tells Congress it has approved sale of F-16 jets to Turkey. New York Times. The U.S. State Department has approved a $23 billion sale of F-16 fighter jets and related equipment to Turkey after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan signed documents allowing Sweden to join NATO. While Congress could still move to block the sale, four senior lawmakers have indicated that they will not object. The State Department had asked Turkey to fly the signed documents to New York, where they were picked up and delivered to Washington to show the lawmakers. The sale is seen as a way to satisfy Erdogan's condition for supporting Sweden's NATO accession and potentially improve U.S.-Turkey relations. Bali bombing conspirators get 5 more years at Guantanamo Bay. New York Times. 2 prisoners at Guantanamo Bay have been sentenced to 23 years in confinement for conspiring in the 2002 terrorist bombing in Bali, Indonesia. Mohammed Farouk bin Amin and Mohammed Nazir bin Lep, both Malaysians, pleaded guilty to war crimes charges last week. However, it has since been revealed that a senior Pentagon official reached a secret agreement with the defendants that they would be sentenced to at most 6 more years in exchange for providing evidence against another prisoner. The men could be freed by 2029 under the current agreement. Houthi rebels escalate attacks by firing at U.S. warship, set oil tanker alight. The Sydney Morning Herald. Yemen's Houthi rebels attacked a U.S. warship patrolling the Gulf of Aden with a missile, forcing it to shoot down the projectile, and also hit a British vessel, according to sources. It marks a significant escalation in the confrontation between the Houthi rebels and the U.S. Navy, as the Houthis continue to launch aggressive attacks on maritime traffic. A U.S. military official confirmed that a missile fired from Houthi-controlled Yemen had hit a vessel, while the U.S. and Britain have been launching airstrikes against the rebels since their attacks began targeting missile depots and launcher sites in Yemen. That's all the news for today, folks. We covered a range of topics, from the impact of the Gaza war on Palestinians in Lebanon, to concerns over British intelligence's blind spot with Beijing, and the escalating tensions between China and Taiwan. We also discussed the passing of journalist John Pilger, the approval of the sale of F-16 jets to Turkey, and the sentencing of Bali bombing conspirators. And let's not forget the Houthi rebels' continued attacks in Yemen. Now, let's dive into some analysis. The impact of the Gaza war on Palestinians in Lebanon is a stark reminder of the ongoing displacement and statelessness faced by many Palestinians. It serves as a warning of what could happen to Gazans and highlights the importance of safeguarding the memories of the survivors of the 1948 dispossession. Moving on to the UK, former Mi6 deputy head Nigel Inkster's warning about the country's ill-preparedness to handle covert threats from China raises concerns about the lack of language expertise and cultural awareness within the intelligence community. The recent increase in Chinese military activity around Taiwan is a cause for alarm, with 33 aircraft and 7 Navy vessels spotted, posing a challenge for Taiwan's defense forces. The passing of journalist John Pilger is a loss for journalism and the world. Pilger was known for his pursuit of truth, his criticism of Western imperialism, and his warning about the possibility of a catastrophic war with China. His death comes at a time when public trust in the media is low, and his dedication to uncovering inconvenient facts will be missed. On the diplomatic front, the approval of the sale of F-16 jets to Turkey is seen as a way to improve U.S.-Turkey relations and satisfy President Erdogan's condition for supporting Sweden's NATO accession. Finally, the sentencing of 2 prisoners at Guantanamo Bay for their involvement in the 2002 Bali bombing sheds light on the complexities of justice and the potential for secret agreements in exchange for evidence. So, that's a wrap for today's news. I hope you enjoyed the updates and analysis. Now it's your turn to join the discussion. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.